finally have some free time. But this game is getting kind of boring. I've already put like 25 hours in. I wonder how much I have left. Okay, so like a minimum of 13 hours.
Does this sound like you? Have you wasted countless hours finishing games you're not having fun with due to some false sense of obligation? I may not be able to get through those hours back, but at the law firm of Terrence, I can help you not waste those hours in the future. And for the low cost of a like and subscribe. On to you, Terrence. Before we get started, I want to clarify that I'm not talking about games that you're still having fun with. If you're still having fun with a game, by all means, finish the game. I mean, even platinum the game. Do whatever you want with the game if you're still having fun. The games I'm talking about not finishing are the games that you are forcing yourself to keep playing. We all know those games we've put like 30 hours into, maybe 40 hours into, and like we don't really care about the story, and you know, the gameplay is meh, but we'll feel guilty if we spent $60 or $70 even without finishing the game. And this video kind of serves as a reminder to myself, a self-proclaimed game completionist, because I have felt the guilt of not finishing a game, or I forced myself to finish games in the past that I was not having fun with. And if you're like me, just know you're not alone. So those games we shouldn't finish, and the cost of finishing those games is actually higher than you might expect. There are two main prices you have to pay, and the first is obvious, but the second is a hidden cost, and it's probably worse than the first. Gamers, especially adult gamers, really value their time playing video games because it's not as plentiful as it was in the summers of childhood. And so the first cost associated with forcing yourself to finish games is obviously having less time to play games you enjoy. I mean, we got jobs, we got school, we got studies, whatever. There's only like so many hours a day that you can spend playing games. So why spend that time forcing yourself to play a game because you spent money on it if you're not going to have fun doing it? The second hidden cost with always finishing your games is actually more associated with the mindset of always finishing your games. For me, this cost becomes most apparent when I talk about my favorite manga ever, and that's One Piece. You see, One Piece has, as of recording, 1,122 chapters, and as far as the anime goes, it has 1,115 episodes. Now, if you're a One Piece fan, that's not enough. You want more. But if you haven't started One Piece, or if you don't like One Piece, that's a huge mountain to climb. Why would you ever want to start something that has such a long way to go to finish? But here's the thing, and this is where this becomes a fallacy. Just because you start One Piece doesn't mean you have to finish One Piece. And if you do finish One Piece, it's because you loved One Piece. But if you didn't like it in the first place, you definitely wouldn't finish. The reason I'm saying this, though, is because people feel the same way with video games. Backlogs for gamers just get longer and longer, and they get into the hundreds and hundreds of games many times. Why does this happen? I mean, there's several reasons, but one of the reasons is because there's friction to start a new game. And part of that friction comes from the feeling that you need to finish it. You wouldn't feel nearly as much friction to start another game if you didn't feel it was required to play 30 hours of the game. If you felt only the obligation to play 1 hour of the game or 2 hours of the game just to give it a try and you could put it away after, you would have no issue starting the game. So the big issue with forcing yourself to finish games is that it makes you more reluctant to try new games because you might be worried that the time commitment is actually higher than it is, when the time commitment should really just be however long it takes you to understand what the game's about. So forcing yourself to finish games isn't great, but why do we do it to ourselves in the first place? It's obviously bad. No one wants to do that. The first one you've probably heard before. If you haven't heard before, you know, I made it up myself, and it's called the sunk cost fallacy. A great example for the sunk cost fallacy is, let's say you order a sandwich at Subway, and you're trying a new combination. You say, I want all of the sauces and all of the meats. You take your first bite, and the first bite, horrible. You can guess that the rest of the bites are going to be the same. Horrible. So in this case, you know the rest is bad. You've already paid your $30 for the Subway sandwich because you ordered every meat. So continuing to eat the sandwich because you already paid for it is sunk cost because you know that every bite is also going to be suffering for you. So don't suffer, and don't eat that sandwich, and don't finish that video game. So sunk cost fallacy, that's number one. That's the reason why we feel like we need to play video games, because we already spent the money, we've already put in 30 hours or 20 hours, however many hours, and we feel like it'd be a waste of all of that past effort and time and money to not now finish the game. I think an additional reason that we finish these games is a sense of social obligation. Like, imagine, there's a game that comes out, let's say it's a smaller game, but it has a huge fan base and the fans are all saying it's the greatest game ever and widely regarded, critically acclaimed, but when you play it, you think it's boring. It's not fun. You're having a bad time. It's happened. It's happened to me several times. People suggest games, or I read a good review, and I play the game, and I'm like,
am I just dumb?
do I just not understand the game? And you feel like, well, I gotta finish, because everyone says it's so amazing. You'd be the odd man out if you didn't finish the game and all your friends had finished the game. And so there is some kind of social obligation for some games to finish them. But I gotta tell you, I've definitely played like good games that are critically acclaimed, and I just haven't enjoyed them. And I still finish them, and it's not that I regret finishing them now, but I could have used that time playing a different game that I actually would have had fun with. So given that the sunk cost fallacy and social obligation are kind of forcing you to feel like you need to finish games, what do we do about that? How do we stop feeling that way? How do we quit a game halfway through guilt-free? Well, I think a prerequisite to that is pay attention to how you feel when you start booting up the same game over and over again. And when you boot up the game, are you excited to play the game? Have you been looking forward to this? Are you just doing this because you're excited about the next game you have to play? Think about that stuff. And that's the first step, is just to know whether you're enjoying the game or not. Sometimes you don't notice. But once we know we're not enjoying this game, how do we remove that guilt of not finishing the game? At least I have the guilt. I think we have to adopt an entirely new mindset around the way we consume our games. First, we have to realize that not everyone plays games for the same reason. So even if the masses are seeming to critique this game and love it, if you play it and you're not enjoying it, the game maybe is just not for you. The social obligation that comes with playing a game that's critically acclaimed, it doesn't have to apply to you. Maybe they like it for a reason that you're not playing games for. Maybe you get that satisfaction from something else. If it's a mystery game, maybe you get that from books. Or if it's a story game, maybe you get that from TV. Maybe you play games just for a mechanical challenge, not for the story. So a story game, you shouldn't feel the need to finish it just because other people like it. Number 2, we should start thinking of buying a game not as an obligation to finish the game, but as an obligation to try the game. So if you buy a game, even if it's $70, and I know it sucks, you shouldn't think of that as a reason to try to get 70 hours out of the game. And I know some people do think of dollars to hours and they rank games that way, but you shouldn't try to squeeze hours out of a game you're not enjoying. So even if you spend $70 on a game, that is just a bet, a $70 bet that you're going to enjoy it. And that's a $70 that you're obligated to try the game, but you should feel no obligation to finish the game regardless of price. And number 3, and this is the inspiration for this video idea in general, just because you don't finish a game doesn't mean you'll never finish the game. For example, I played this game Journey, and all of these feelings I've described I felt about this game. I had heard really good things about Journey, I'd read really positive reviews, I've heard good things from my friends, and then I played it, and I just was not having fun at all. This is one of those games that's like a really good game that I really should enjoy, but as I played, I just wasn't getting anything out of it. And I kept forcing myself to play day after day. And it's a very short game, so keep that in mind. I only had like 30 minutes a day to play games at the time. It wasn't until recently I bought a Steam Deck, and I started looking through what games would be interesting to me to play on my Steam Deck. And all of a sudden, Journey, the same game, same mechanics as before, seemed fun to play on a handheld instead of sitting down on my PC playing it. And so I downloaded Journey, and lo and behold, I was having a good time. I finished the game, and it was just a different medium, a different way to play it. It was just not fun on my PC. It wasn't fun to be sitting at my computer playing Journey, but like laying in my bed, unwinding for the night, that like felt great. It made the game more enjoyable to finish. And so what I'm saying is, just because you're not going to finish the game now, there might be a medium later that you'll be able to finish the game in a more enjoyable way. Or maybe you're not in the right stage, maybe you don't have enough time right now to fully enjoy the game the way it's meant to be enjoyed, and you will later. So just because you're not finishing a game now doesn't mean you won't finish it later if it's appealing. But if it's not appealing, no worries. Don't finish it. If you really need to know the ending and you just hate playing the game, synopsis online. And some people might think that's blasphemy, but Yeah, you can do what you want. It's your game. You're paying for it. Go have fun with your other games, the fun ones, the ones that you like more. And now with all that extra time and guilt-free headspace, you can take that and go play games you're gonna actually have fun playing. My name's Terrence. I'm gonna keep playing games till I find the perfect one, not necessarily finishing all of them. Peace, love,